Hello, I'm Sky Matsuhashi, founder of SmartPokerStudy.com, the place for poker players who are always striving to be better today than they were yesterday. Poker people, in episode 51, I taught you 5 ways to improve your game with Poker Tracker 4 by analyzing your stats along with hands and through the use of a heads-up display. Hey, poker people, thanks for tuning in and telling your friends. Thanks for spreading the word, because that's how we grow. And don't worry, no Rebecca Black today. I learned my lesson after that last time, because that friggin' song was stuck in my head all weekend. But it is Friday after all, so let's get it on with another Q&A. Oh, but before we get to that, The Walking Dead, great season finale, 90 awesome minutes of the show, but I really need to know, who did Negan kill? Tweet me your answer to @SmartPokerStudy. My money's on Abraham, but what do you say? Alrighty then, we've got 4 questions today, which we'll hit right now, and everything I discuss will be in the show notes for this episode, which you can find and follow along at smartpokerstudy.com/pod52. Okay, this first question comes from Dwight Schrute.
ID badges are long overdue. Security in this office park is a joke. Last year I came to work with my spud gun in a duffel bag. I sat at my desk all day with a rifle that shoots potatoes at 60 pounds per square inch. Can you imagine if I was deranged?
If you were deranged. Come on, Dwight. All of us Office fans know you are, buddy. You know, it's funny, seeing him on the show, he's a funny guy, great for the show and everything. But if you actually worked with a guy like that, #screw you guys, I'm going home. Alrighty, on to question number 2. This one comes from Reuben. He writes in and he says, I like to play sit-and-goes, mostly one-table 9-man sit-and-goes. I also like the 50-50 ones. I was wondering if you've played the 50-50s, and if you had any pointers to cash more in those types of games. Well, thanks for the question, Reuben, and I've never played the 50-50 format, so I'm sorry, I can't give you any pointers from experience. From what I understand, though, they're kind of like Dons, or double or nothings, but you get paid based on your chip stack once 5 players are eliminated. So half of the prize pool gets paid back evenly, and the other half of the prize pool gets paid out based on the ratio of your chip stack to all the chips in play. So there is an incentive to accumulate chips, whereas in Dons, it's all about hanging on to the bubble until that 6th player busts. So for 50-50s, when you're on the bubble, I would say to pick on the medium and short stacks who fear busting, and look out for the shorties who will 3-bet shove re-steal to accumulate chips, and also look out for the big stack stations who will call shoves with hands like ace-deuce off or king-9 off, My guess is you can treat these like normal sit-and-go bubbles, where there's incentive to not bust, but also incentive to accumulate chips at the same time. And I Googled 50-50 SNG real quick, and there's a lot of strategy articles based on this format. I would recommend doing that for yourself and reading up on it. Lots of people in forums say that it's not profitable though, but I really can't corroborate that as I haven't run the math on them. But, thanks again for this question, Reuben, and go do some Googling and some researching for yourself. Oh, and, I've got to give a big old thank you to Al Spath. You might remember him from my first interview back in episode 14. The other day, he mentioned the Smart Poker Study Podcast Facebook discussion group, and we got a ton of people requesting to join. We more than doubled our current membership within the group. So that was awesome. Thank you so much, Al. And of course, everyone else is welcome. Just come visit us at smartpokerstudy.com/discuss. And make sure you join soon, as I've got some special announcements coming your way within the next week or so. Alrighty, question number 3. This one is from a bloke named William. Hey Sky, I'm loving the podcast, and I'm consuming 2 or 3 a day. Holy shit, how do they taste? I'm kidding, I know how they taste. Back to William. I'm loving the content, and it's making poker easier to study and more enjoyable to play. At the moment, I'm trying to add short stack tournament play into my game. I'm mainly a live cash player, but I'm trying to add more tournaments to my schedule. One of the biggest weaknesses that I'm trying to improve on is shoving and calling ranges from 25, 20, 15, 10, and 5 big blind stacks. It's a lot of information, and I'm using an app called Snap Shove to get better with these ranges. The app has a cool training feature where it places you in different scenarios where you either shove or fold, and it tells you if you're correct or not. Maybe you could do a podcast on short stack ranges. Another area I struggle with is when you have a short stack and would shove if it is folded to you, but it gets raised in front of you. I get lost in those scenarios. Alrighty, well, thank you very much for this opportunity, William. I'll answer your question now with some information, and in the future I will do a podcast based on short stack tournament play. But let's see. Back in Q&A episode number 48, I talked about a program called Hold'em Resources Calculator, and I put a video in the show notes that my buddy Dennis created. This is a great program that gives you tons of practice in push-fold play. Check out the video at smartpokerstudy.com/pod48. I would recommend getting HRC, which is Hold'em Resources Calculator, for the 2-week free trial that they give, and run through it every single day with your own short-stacked MTT hand histories, and do it hand for hand, and look to see what ranges you can profitably shove or call in each instance. Take notes on what you discover, and try to find the most common cutoff hands for shoving at certain stack sizes and calling at certain stack sizes. Cutoff is a position at the table, but it's also a concept I learned from Alex Fitzgerald, and I interviewed him back in episode 43. He talks about cutoffs as the bottom of ranges where it's profitable to make a play. So, for example, let's say you run through 100 hands, and when it comes to calling 10 big blind shoves with a 15 big blind stack, you often see ace-9 suited and king-jack suited and pocket eights as the bottom of calling ranges. Now, I'm not saying this is the case, it's just an example. This means that anything below these cutoffs, like 7-7 or ace-8 suited or king-10 suited, they should be folded. So take note of these cutoffs because they are so frequent, they pop up so often. Now when you're playing in-game, keep these in mind, and when you encounter this situation and have one of these cutoff hands, or a better hand of course, you can safely assume it's a good spot to call. So get the program, look for patterns, take notes of the patterns and the cutoff hands, and use the notes in-game. Alrighty, thank you for that email, William. I know you'd like to win a free $10 every Tuesday to jumpstart your online poker career, so make sure you sign up for an America's Card Room account through me for 27% rakeback and a 100% first deposit bonus of up to $1,000. Just use offer code SPSPOD in all caps. Enter the code, create your account, make your first deposit, then email me your newly minted ACR screen name, and you'll be entered into the weekly drawing for a free $10. I'll announce the winner in the podcast every Tuesday and transfer the $10 to your America's Card Room account. And soon we'll be holding weekly free rolls exclusive to my listeners, so get in on the action and open your own America's Card Room account today by clicking the banner at the top of this episode's show notes, or go to smartpokerstudy.com/ACR for more details and your chance to win $10 weekly. Make sure you use that offer code SPSPOD. Okay, the final question of the day comes to us from Richard. I have an issue where the more I learn, the more fishy I become. I have a hard time applying what I know. I need a system to wake myself up. Well, thanks for the question, Richard. And wake dad ass up! That's actually what I say to my kids every morning when I wake them up for school. Wake dad ass up! Anywho, many people have this same problem, Richard, and it's a problem of mastery versus overload through too many differing strategies that you don't yet know how to combine and put together into one cohesive strategy. I suggest really nailing down one topic at a time. And before you move on to the next, think about what would be the next logical step from what you just studied. So let's say right now you're spending a full week on C-bets. Here's a long list of all the different ways you can study just C-bets. Hand history reviews with an emphasis on C-bet opportunities, focus sessions where you concentrated on making good value and bluff C-bets, reading articles and watching videos, learning how coaches would plug C-betting frequency leaks, studying the difference between C-betting in position and out of position, using Flopzilla to study how different ranges hit different boards, which can of course influence your c-betting ranges, developing optimal c-bet frequencies so you aren't too predictable, running the math on how effective different sized c-bets have to be, and adding the c-bet stat to your HUD, practicing and journaling about your thoughts on exploiting opponents' different c-bet stats, and posting c-betting hands in forums. So that's a ton of stuff. Let's say you did all of that this week and you feel very confident in your c-betting strategy moving forward. Now, what should be your next area of study? Should you move to ranging opponents or river bluffs or push-fold strategy? My answer is no to all of these. The next strategy for you to focus on would probably be defending versus c-bets. You've already done a ton of c-bet study as the c-better. Now, what do you do when facing a c-bet? So some of the things that you can study for defending versus c-bets is studying optimal defending frequencies, coming up with strategies to defend both in position and out of position, knowing the types of boards that opening ranges hit well and don't hit well, studying your opponent's c-bet stats, hand history reviews where you called preflop and faced a c-bet, and translating what you know about making good c-bets into defending well versus c-bets. So there are so many more ways to study c-bets and defending versus c-bets that I can't think of all of them right now. This is a quick list right here. So the next time you're studying, go as in-depth as you can on one topic before hitting the next area of study. And don't succumb to the shiny object syndrome. That's where something new catches your eye and you just have to follow it, Stick with whatever topic you're on right now before venturing on to the next. Maybe you're a member of Tournament Poker Edge and you're studying those c-bets, but your favorite video maker now released a video on 3-bets. Well, bookmark it, put it to the side, make a note of it to study it in a few weeks, whatever, Stick with your c-betting for now. Don't go after that shiny new object. And strive for mastery, of course. Alrighty, thanks again for that email, Richard. Challenge! Here's my challenge for you for this episode. Make a plan for the next 4 weeks of study at one topic per week. Start with whatever your current focus is right now. Brainstorm 7 areas of study within that one topic and follow one of these each day. Do the same for weeks 2 and 4 and make sure your topics relate to the previous one so you can bring what you've already studied to the next week. Email me your 4 topics and I'll give you a shout out on the podcast for being a Poker Study Challenge master. Now it's your turn to take action and Scooby-Dooby-Doo something positive for your poker game.
Now get it on.
All right, thank you so much for listening today, and thanks again to Dwight, Reuben, William, and Richard for sending me those bangin' questions. If you're not already there, head over to the show notes page for everything discussed today at smartpokerstudy.com/pod52. And while you're there, sign up for the smartpokerstudy.com newsletter, and for doing that, I'll send you my ultimate poker resource guide for free. Hit me with any feedback through the show notes, or you can send an email to sky@smartpokerstudy.com. Tweet me at smartpokerstudy or post in the Facebook group at smartpokerstudy.com/discuss. And I've got an iTunes review, real quick one. This one comes from Chris Palladino. He says, give a fish or teach them to fish? 5 stars. I've played poker years ago, often and quite poorly. I have a newfound interest in learning about the game. Sky does a great job with this podcast. He has a teaching background and it shows. He's clear, foreshadows information in each episode, he recaps it, and he gives you homework/next steps. This is primarily a learning podcast, and secondarily a tips, tricks, strategy podcast. If you want to know 3 tricks at a surface level, this isn't the show for you. That said, I love it for its methodology. Rather than spoon-feeding you, he explains the why. He tells you how to best utilize your study homework time. Awesome review, Chris. I really appreciate that so much. For everybody else out there, please subscribe to the podcast through your favorite podcast app. Give it a heart, some stars, a thumb, whatever it allows, and leave a review to help others discover the show. Alrighty, poker people, be sure to come back on Tuesday for an episode about how to use a HUD for online poker, and I'll show you how to get the most benefit from it. Now, seriously, word of mouth is the best advertising, and I would truly appreciate it if you told just one friend about the show. Have them go to iTunes, their favorite podcatching app, or the show notes to begin their journey. You might want to recommend to them episode number 2, where I discussed making smart poker goals, or episode 23, where I discussed not paying people off by understanding river bet sizing. Until next time, study smart, play much, and make your next session the best one yet.